I'm going to introduce, I'm not going to host this one, so I'm going to step aside, and I'd like to introduce David Cobon. David is a senior scientist with the Centre of Applied Climate Sciences at the University of Southern Queensland. He is integral in their Northern Australian climate program, and he's going to facilitate this panel with his colleagues, Professor Stone and Dr. Sir, as well as Dr. Pudmensky. So they're just getting the wide angle camera ready, and David is in the centre there, and David, you're ready to take it away.
Okay, thanks Nicole for that intro, and thanks to our panel members, our speakers, Roger, Sharmila and Christa, for what was a real mix, I guess, of climate. Roger giving the sort of drought hub overview of the new drought hubs, particularly the Northern New South Wales, Southern Queensland drought hub that now includes the rangelands of Queensland, thanks to Roger's involvement early in the piece to make sure that the rangelands were part of this hub. And also to Christa for giving us a sort of climate extremes overview as part of the Four Warners Forearm project, which is a major national project involving 8 RDCs and the Bureau of Meteorology. So just a wide spectrum of talks. And Sharmila's talk about the multi-year forecasting and multi-year prediction. And I think that's very much in its early days in terms of our research program, but thanks to Sharmila for sort of outlining the importance of the climate drivers and how you've identified the climate drivers that drive, I guess, the variability at the multi-year time scale in Northern Australia. I wanted to just maybe start with Sharmila and ask Sharmila, you mentioned that the research is in its early days and that you've identified obviously the drivers and that ENSO is very important in the predictability sort of up to and beyond the 1 year timescale. In terms of your research, what are the important steps going forward to get us to the end goal, which is really an operational product that can predict our climate out to beyond the 1 year, out to 2 years, or even beyond that. So, Sharmila, what are the next steps as part of your research?
Thanks, David. So currently we are doing research on understanding and identifying the precursors of ENSO and also the climate processes that actually contribute to the better predictability of ENSO. Can you hear me? I hear some echoes.
We can hear you well in the hub in Longreach.
Okay. So we are currently trying to identify the climate processes related to the ENSO predictability, and we are also looking at we are trying to identify the prediction uncertainties that I already showed that actually limits the prediction in the second year. So these are the some of our ongoing research going on to make a better. Sorry, there is so much echo.
It's coming through loud and clear here in Longreach.
Sharmila's having trouble. Yeah. Feedback.
Sharmila, I might cut across to another question, if that's okay, to give you time to get your system working. I'd like to bring in Roger now. I mean, Roger was, I guess, initially the rangelands in Queensland weren't part of the hub as the federal government outlined, and you sort of worked hard to get them included. And we saw on your map that, you know, Longreach is obviously part, and Roma, and I think you mentioned Southern Gulf as well. What was it about the rangelands that sort of that you sort of recognised as being so important to get the involvement into the Northern New South Wales, Southern Queensland hub?
I think thanks, David. I think the key part of the Future Drought Fund program across Australia was to include regions or locations that were in a similar climatic zone. And there was a climatic zone called the semi-arid zone that didn't seem to be rating much attention as far as I could work out. It may have, my impression. And in fact, the rangelands could have been cut up in amongst 4 or 5 different hubs across the country. So considering its unique climatic zone, which was a key driver of the initiative out of Canberra, which is a good initiative out of the federal government, and my background working with the good people in the rangelands over the last 30 years, I thought this was an important time to recognise the value of the rangelands yet again to other people in Australia, and its unique characteristics, its capability of withstanding droughts and becoming resilient, not to overuse the term. All those features added up. The climatic zones, the importance of the region, and the fact that we didn't want the rangelands to be cut up in amongst a whole lot of different hubs unnecessarily. So we made a special effort to explain to the good folks in the federal government that the rangelands needed to be included very much in their thinking for any drought hub in Queensland. And in fact, we'd like to have included the Northern Territory and Western Australia as well. There may be opportunities to do that. It's a unique zone in the world. It's unique in terms of its climatic characteristics. They fascinate me as a climate scientist, but it's unique also with the mitral grasslands and the systems that all the systems, the natural systems and the farming systems that operate here. So that's the key region. We don't want parts of Australia to fall away in these sorts of major national programs. And I think there's an opportunity for the rangelands work based on the good work that you folk have been doing for many years in DPI and also CSIRO particularly, and all the local community groups and the natural resource management groups. We want to capitalise on that work and show leadership across the country.
And that leads in, I guess, Roger, to sort of looking forward, I guess, and that good work continuing but not being duplicated. And so it's about the hubs. And you mentioned JCU. There's another hub in the Northern Territory that covers Northern and Western Australia as well. So large rangelands areas there. How do the DCAP, the Drought and Climate Adaptation Program, and the Northern Australia Climate Program, those projects that are already operating, how do you see them sort of working in with the hubs?
Well, 2 ways. That's a good question, actually, David. The funders, like the Meat Livestock Australia and so on, are already contacting us to see how they can connect in through Future Drought Fund and how we can interact from that scale. But the people on the ground involved in the Northern Australian Climate Program, the Climate Mates, which is an incredibly good initiative, need to connect in with the drought, the hub managers and the node managers, particularly the node managers in the respective areas. I mean, I guess the last thing people want out there is more workshops, one after another, with someone from JCU being there on a Monday and someone from another group being there on a Tuesday, and get workshopped out. So there needs to be a lot of collaboration there. And there needs to be a fair bit of goodwill as well. I think the various agencies involved, the people on the ground need to connect where they can, and especially face-to-face. So this meeting in Longreach is a very good example of that collective sort of capability. So it has to come back to people working together and wanting to work together at the end of the day, not just rely on Zoom and online sort of sessions.
Thanks very much, Roger. I'm just looking through the chat here, and as I do that, Sharmila, would you be able to just continue your answer to the question before, please? Hopefully you're now back without so much noise in your ears.
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear loud and clear. So, okay, thank you. So what I was talking about is the enhancing the predictability of ENSO through understanding the climate processes that contribute to the predictability of 1 year and multi-year ENSO events, which are currently we are working. And we also are trying to identify the prediction uncertainty or the ensemble spread that is actually limiting the prediction beyond 1.5 years. And I think when we will be able to understand the science, and another point is we still have some limited understanding on the drivers of multi-year droughts and flooding conditions over northern Australia. And there may be, for example, for Northwest region, we see that Northwest Australia is more related with the local interaction between rainfall, moisture, and evaporation feedback. So we are looking into those aspects to have a better understanding and capability of predicting ENSO in at least for 2 years in advance.
Okay, good. Thanks so much, Sharmila.
Thanks,
just
David.
looking through the chat here now, answer to Chelsea's question before about who's evaluating the extreme forecast that Christa talked about. And Matt Wheeler's come in and said that the Bureau has done some skill testing of all the products that have been produced as part of the Forewarned is Forearmed program. And some of those, such as the rainfall burst, I think Tim Cowan is currently publishing a paper. So there's more to come, I guess, on that, and those skill levels of some of those products will be coming out as part of the operational release. Andrew Ash has asked, do you have a sense of what skill levels are needed to trigger a transformational change in the uptake of seasonal forecasts? I think I might ask Roger to have a go at that one. Roger.
Thanks, Andrew. That's a good Andrew type question. It's probably, I was going to say 80%, but that means 1 in 5 years the system would fail. So it sounds high. It has to be particularly high, but it also depends whether folk have been involved in face-to-face workshops. The Manager for Climate workshops that DAF runs, Chelsea's Climate Mates, if I can call it Chelsea's Climate Mate programs. If folk have been to those, then they will much more likely, I think, understand what risk management is, and any information is better than no information. So once producers have been through maybe an all-day workshop with practical sort of examples and exams and little things like that, and they're good fun, then I imagine that threshold will be much lower. But for those that are just getting information online, I would say to be up at the 90% level, because there's little understanding generally in the community of what risk management's all about. So I think that's the way I'd answer that. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Roger. Bob Shepherd is, there is an increasing interest, this is to Roger again, there is an increasing interest in the mosaic agriculture, e.g. irrigated crops and fodder in Northern Australia, including the Rangelands areas. Will your R&D indicate the reliability of water availability? Under
the Future Drought Fund, thanks Bob, it doesn't involve research. which I think is a mistake. I can say that because I've just retired. So it needs to improve the research into just those sorts of issues you're mentioning. If there's already some work being done, that can be included as an assessment, as some sort of assessment, and you can go into the innovation grants programs, of which there's plenty of money, has been plenty of money available, or they're still open or not. And through that, you can test this sort of information out. But as a basic rule, the R&D with the research part is not much included, if at all, in the Future Drought Fund. I think it should be. The only way to get around that is to have particular interests, such as you're saying there, to go through an innovation grant to test exactly that sort of issue.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're sort of coming to the end of the session. I think Roger's just sort of highlighted the fact that some people in the audience may not completely understand what El Nino Southern Oscillation is, and so if that's the case, and I suspect it might be, I might just get Roger to just give a bit of a highlight of what he considers to be one of the biggest drivers of climate variability, that is ENSO in Northern Australia particularly.
Oh, thanks, David. No, it was just, it's been commonly mentioned through the discussions in the climate session. The buzzword, I mean, the acronym ENSO is used a lot, and I wasn't sure if the audience knew that is an acronym for the El Nino Southern Oscillation. So we have ENSO, and ENSO predictability as being the main driver of the global climate, but it's just the acronym, that's all. So sometimes we have to spell that out. It stands for El Nino Southern Oscillation, and it includes El Nino, La Nina, and the atmosphere above that, which is often measured by our old friend, the Southern Oscillation Index. So the whole, put it all together, and that ends up with the term ENSO. That was all.
Okay, good. No, thanks for clarifying that. I think I'll just cross now to Christa and say the Forewarned is Forearmed program, being a national program, is not just about the red meat industry. Obviously, you mentioned sugar, but there's also the grains industry, both from a northern perspective and a southern perspective. Wine industry is involved, and as well as the pork and other industries are all contributing to this project. There have been, over the course of the 4 years or so of the program, about 30 products developed. And we, through the industry reference groups and our surveys with producers around Australia, come down and identified the 5 products that you talked about. Yeah. What do you see as the potential going forward of some of those other products, you know, that didn't make the cut, so to speak, and where do you think this could go in the future?
Some of the products are very similar, so therefore we have asked the reference group members which one is the most suitable one for their business. So all the different industries had input into the final 5 we're having now. Maybe some others might be suitable in the future, but at the current point in time, we have the Bureau of Meteorology together with the industry reference group members from all the different industries all around Australia have decided to use these 5 products and make them available for everybody to use.
And they're going to be online rolling out this year, yeah. Products 1 and 2 potentially this year, and then products 3, 4 and 5 during the course of 2022.
Yes.
A very exciting time. Thank you very much, David, for chairing our last panel, and to our doctors and Professor Stone, Dr. Pudmensky and Dr. Sir, thank you very much for sharing your insights. It's been fantastic.